Welcome everyone to my little review of Titanfall 2 on the PlayStation 4. So Titanfall 2 came out in late 2016. Was actually one of the first games that I had bought when we purchased the PlayStation 4. Anyway, it's made by Respawn Entertainment, distributed by the infamous EA. And it's unlike the first Titanfall, which was purely multiplayer, Titanfall 2 has a fairly strong campaign or story mode associated with it. And that's really what I'll be talking about today. Oh, yep, we're going down. Uh-oh. So in Titanfall 2, you start off the game basically as someone who really shouldn't be piloting the Titans being these huge mech robots, but you find yourself in a situation not of your choosing. So it mixes between first person soldier shooter and mech game. Really, I mean, it's not quite as sophisticated as some of the Battlefield or Call of Duty games, but it actually has a really good flow to it, and as a shooter, it's not too difficult, and there's a lot of frenetic pacing, which is good, keeps it fun. Also a good selection of weapon types. And I have to say, so the game starts off in you've crash landed on a planet's surface, and you have to fight your way through. And it's actually a well designed game layout, or level layouts in the beginning. So I particularly like the game levels set on the planets as compared to in the spaceships, especially because the spaceships tend to be a little bit limited. Oh, hold on. That was close. I'm glad I wasn't him. So this is BT. So we get to see him a fair bit later in the game. There's his pilot. Now, this is the one thing about this game, is that you're always having to mix between first-person shooter soldier style and in the Titans, which is a fairly interesting mix. Oops. BT, where are you? Okay, so this is shortly after. Something's not quite right here. Yikes. I'm glad that's not in VR. It's not quite Horizon Zero Dawn, but they're pretty good animal models. Oh. Thankfully, BT was still kicking. So this is how the bromance begins. Almost squished me. Oh. Time to finish you off. No, maybe not. Maybe I'll listen to what you've got to say first.
Transfer authorization to new pilot.
Now, hold on. Let's go back a bit.
Here we go.
This is a training program. We've just met him
Ship must have power
at the beginning of the video. He's here to help train us.
Setting the neural link.
Jack Cooper, that's you.
Titan link, but it's similar. To learn new skills, we need to be in the right state of mind.
That's right. and you're the man to get us there.
Much better. Go ahead and run the gauntlet.
Now, the one thing about the game is that the pilots are not just normal people. They have seemingly supernatural powers when it comes to agility, and that corresponds particularly to wall jumping and double jumps. So this is comes around the same time as Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and a number of other games where the sort of wall running was all the rage. Personally, I hate it. It's annoying, and there's a whole heap of sections in the game which are critically dependent on it, and it really bugs me. It's just not very natural. Now, where were we? Ah, that's right.
Trooper, take my Titan.
So things didn't
Use
quite
my
work out
helmet
for you.
my jump kit. This is the real thing.
This is the real
Take
thing.
care of him.
Oh my god, that's such hammy acting, even for a virtual character. So here we are. It's the first time actually trying out operating BT. So BT is sort of semi-autonomous in the sense that he can do a lot of things by himself until you take control, and then he's all yours. It's a good mix. I mean, it has a mech warrior type game. It's fun. Good arsenal range. Sometimes, though, I have to admit, it's hard to tell who's who, friend or foe, especially at distance. But it's very satisfying to play when you do get it worked out. And I like those guided missiles. And, as always, giant robot punches. So there's a pretty good mix of AI in the non-play characters and also the enemies as well. You do get a sense that there is a group of people all trying to work together. But to be honest, they are all pretty well independent. So you don't really develop any tactics as a group. So it's just a big frag fest, which is fine. Most of the time, the opponents are fairly clever. They do seek cover. They do use shields appropriately. But especially when they're facing multiple foes, they really, it's pretty easy to flank them, especially when you're using the power-ups. So there are some nice set pieces in the game where there's lots of enemy all on the screen at once. The environments, as I said, I mean the graphics are really quite good. I guess they are pretty simple though, to be a little bit more critical. But overall, it just flows nicely. Now, I said before, I like the external levels much better. Once you get inside, they become a lot more constraining, a lot more repetitive. Also, what you find is that BT is just too big. It really limits. One of the things that annoys me is when you are limited in your ability to climb even relatively small steps inside in the interiors. So it means it forces you to do that transition between pilot and mech. I like to do that a little bit more freely, whereas the game pretty well constrains when that transition occurs. And one of the things that really bugs me though about the game is the batteries. So when you're in the mech suit, the batteries run out constantly, so quickly, so you're always having to look for replacement batteries, which is just becomes annoying. But it is very much a fun game. Love the graphics, a little bit linear. I'd definitely give it an 8.3.